Welcome to the Ladies Talk Show. This is Leah Richheimer. Guys, we are getting to harmony. Is there like anything more important, right? How to get rid of, how to forgive, how to move along. And we're going through step by step. I'm going to read for about 5 minutes and then I want your questions. info@ladiestalkshow.com. Send them in. We're going to answer them here right now. Okay, here we go. Now, here's the thing. We are on page 283 in Marriage Secrets, and we are talking about what ideas of what to think while you're processing how to come to harmony, how to forgive, how to get back to a great place. And the thing before we get started, I want you to know one thing. There is an end to this, meaning once you clean up all the resentments and grudges and whatever from years past, 5 years, 10 years, 25 years, whatever, once you get those all done, it's like, it's just keeping clean what comes up now. You know what I'm saying? It's such a beautiful feeling. It's like, the feeling like, one day in the future, things are going to be the way I want them. With this, it's kind of like you get to that one day place because you've got a clean slate. It's really gewaldic. Okay, page 283, ideas of what to think. Remember, it's all from Hashem. The person who insulted you was in some way a mere puppet doing Hashem's will. When David HaMelech was cursed, he asked, "Why should I be angry with him? Hashem is the one who told him to curse." Do not take revenge. You are meant to get this insult for your own growth. It was designed to challenge you to see who you are going to be in the face of the insult. Are you going to harbor resentments and stay angry, or are you going to forgive and let go? Number 2, realize it's a kapara. Everything bad that happens to us is needed for our own growth. When someone does something to you, try to think, would I rather have that person speak harshly to me or have a worse punishment? An insult or hurtful comment is often a minor difficulty from Hashem. It is often valuable in the midst of feeling the pain of someone hurting you to say, "Thank you, Hashem, for giving me a relatively painless way of atoning for my sins." If people were given the choice, they would usually choose the momentary pain of getting an insult versus a protracted illness or financial ruin. And as Rabbi Rampam would say, insults are the cheapest form of affliction. Rather than blowing the incident completely out of proportion and making a major fight over it, minimizing the insult in your mind and seeing that the Yad Hashem will help you to forgive more easily. Number 3, increase blessing. Harboring resentments causes a blockage in the relationship. It shuts off the flow of your husband's blessing from Hashem to you. If you can get yourself to be a clean slate and forgive, then the blessings are greatly increased in the home. Number 4, don't wait for sorry. People often justify their own poor behavior in their own minds. Often, if someone treats us badly, they will twist it around and make the entire incident our fault. We could certainly take people to task for this injustice, but that wouldn't be very intellectually honest since we likely do the same thing ourselves. It's a natural phenomenon. Understanding this should give us the insight that rather than raking through the muck to accurately place the blame, it would be far better to just let go without too much scrutiny. Forgiveness is boldly taking a stand for harmony. Absent clarity about who is right and who is wrong, waiting for someone to apologize is the Yetzer Hara's way of keeping our husband at a distance from us. Just jump in boldly and forgive for the sake of your marriage and, equally important, for your own serenity. Number 5, for forward momentum. Once we start to forgive our husband, it spreads to all of the people in our lives. Letting go gets easier as we practice these tools. You can even create some of your own tools as well. The bottom line is making forgiveness a habit keeps us closer to people and keeps ourselves feeling happier and more satisfied with our life. Okay, ideas for introspection. Actually, I'm only going to do half of this. Okay, yeah, I'm just going to read one more page and then we'll break in the middle. That's just the way it is. Okay, ideas for introspection. Forgiveness capacity. First, it's very valuable to know what kind of person you are, the forgiving type or the non-forgiving type. If you are poor at forgiving, you know that you have some serious work to do to let go of things in your life. You may even need a trained therapist because carrying past hurts can be toxic to your mental health. Working toward being forgiving will help you to bring people closer to you. Rabbi Tursky says that holding on to anger is allowing the other person to live rent-free in your thoughts. It doesn't impact him and you suffer needlessly. Number 2, recognize human frailty. Even if someone did something unpleasant to us, it's very helpful to ask ourselves, are we ourselves free from sin? Who's to say we wouldn't have behaved even more poorly? Who are we to judge their behavior given their circumstances and situation? Only God can judge. Ask yourself, am I so much better? Maybe we don't have that weakness, but we have other weaknesses. Often people don't act in bad ways because they are evil. They are just human and make mistakes, often repeatedly. Recognizing human frailties can lessen our expectations of others and allow us to judge them more favorably. Number 3, motivation for forgiveness. Why should we forgive someone for hurting us when they don't deserve it, or worse, are not even sorry about what they did? We all know that people who are consumed with anger ruin their own lives. They are so caught up in their victimhood from their ex-spouse, their parents, or their boss that all of their relationships are negatively effective. We wish we could say to them, your ex-husband remarried and moved on with his life. Why can't you just let go? It's only hurting you. Unfortunately, seeing that downside for others does not translate well when applied to our own situation. Abuses feel so much more heinous when they happen to us, so our anger feels fully justified. But if we could just stand outside of ourselves for a moment, we could truly understand that our resentment gains us nothing except for the consolation prize of being right about how much we were wronged. Until we can truly get in touch with the cost of our resentment, it certainly is hard to get motivated to forgive. The main costs are that festering anger makes it impossible for us to fully savor our lives. It makes us feel like a victim. It keeps us stuck in the past. And worse, it gives the other person a lot of emotional control over us. Holding on to resentments robs us of a lot of pleasure in life. The point is, even if we can't forgive out of generosity and kindness, hold on a second. Clap. Holding on to resentments robs us of a lot of pleasure in life. The point is, even if we can't forgive out of generosity and kindness, perhaps at the very least, we can forgive them in order to free ourselves from negativity and festering anger so we can go on with our lives unencumbered. Keep in mind, however, that this book does not address issues of abuse and addiction. That is not something to forgive and let go of. It's something that must be taken care of with the help of a trained professional. Okay. We're going to stop there and take questions. Let me put my little tape thing here so I know where we are. Okay.
Hey, great questions coming in, ladies. Keep sending them in.
Okay.
So Sari's asking, I find it difficult to view an insult from my husband as a kapara. It makes me see my husband as smaller than me, as if he is just there so that I can be a better person, which affects how I respect my husband. How can I consolidate both of these feelings? Both of these.
Explain it to me, Gila. So
she feels like when she's saying her husband is there as a kapara, then he's just there to make her a better person. That's not why he's there.
Oh, okay.
So
you mean using that mental game is confusing.
And also it affects how she respects her husband, in turn because of that. So she's saying, how do I consolidate both of these?
Okay, that's a good question. First of all, good on you for trying that, because that's a very effective technique usually. And it's not necessarily to make it like, oh, that's how reality is. It's meant to make you understand that God himself, as Yaakov said, that God himself made the person do that. Oh, Yosef, whatever, God himself made the person do that. So that just takes a little bit of the sting out of it or the anger out of it, but it doesn't lessen your relationship with your husband, the connection. If this is making you not be able to respect him more, which I don't really follow, but if that's the case, then I wouldn't use that technique. Use different techniques to forgive him. But the bottom line is that you should understand that your husband's, what happens is something outside of ourselves happens, and it happens to us, and then we get so flustered and so caught up in it that we can't sort of see the big picture. This technique is just sort of like remove yourself from the situation, much like we did in the anger, chapter, where we, kind of pulled away from it. If you're pulling away from the situation and you realize it ain't him, that is hopefully going to help you. But if that doesn't work and it makes you respect him, try a different technique. It's a good question. Okay, go ahead, Gila. What you got for me?
Okay, next question is from Rachel. I wish my husband would apologize to me more. Should I communicate this to him or work on getting over my pettiness and needing it?
No, that's a good question. Guys aren't so good at that. I'm sorry to break the news to you. They're not so good at it. And also, their sorry is often like, I'm sorry you were upset at what I did, not like, I'm sorry what I did was wrong. So it's a tall hurdle. You should just know one thing. You are not alone. Okay. All of us women, we get it, So, I don't know if I've look, if that is the most important thing to you, if that's like, you just, it's holding you back from feeling closeness or whatever. Yeah, okay. So I'll tell you what the conversation to have, but my probably gut instinct about it is that there's probably 20 things before that, like pick your battles, like it seems like there will be 20 more things that would be way more important to you than that. So just, I just would leave it. But if, let's say, it's one of your top 5 things that most upset you about your husband, he never says he's sorry, I would examine why you need him to say sorry so much. But okay. So there's a bunch of things. One is, how often do you say sorry, and do you genuinely mean it? And do you have to, do you give him the silent treatment for 3 days before saying sorry? There's a lot of dynamics that go into it that I don't know. But let's say you're perfect, quote unquote, perfect at giving him, I'm putting my little fingers up for you audio listeners, like quote, you're perfect at saying you're sorry yourself, and now you just want him to bump up his game. You could have a conversation with him and say, listen, I'm not sure what to do. I feel like I want there to be harmony in a relationship. And sometimes when we have a tussle or a conflict, which by the way is normal and, that's to be expected, we have these kinds of tussles or something. I feel like you brush over. I'm sorry, and I feel like it's not genuine, or you don't say sorry at all. Is that something you're open to working on to, make it very soft and sweet? Is that something you're open to working on? And he goes, well, I do say I'm sorry. And I'm like, yeah, but you kind of like, I get the feeling like you're saying sorry to get the conversation to move on, not because you're genuinely sorry. And what being genuinely sorry might look like is you're saying, I get it. I'm sorry, and I'll try my best not to do it again. Something like that. Would you be open to working on this with me? Because it's very important to me. Something like that. So it's a very good question. And I would, whatever you can do to lessen your need for him to say a full blown, beautiful sorry, you'll just have better mental health, more serenity in your own life, because men just often, look, there's exceptions and whatever. And I'm not trying to say women are this way, men are that way, because there's varying degrees and there's shades of gray. But for the most part, this is the subtlety of how to say a apology. It's kind of lost on them a little bit. So if you can lessen your expectations, maybe have a little bit of a conversation with them, hopefully that will be good enough. And again, if this is your top priority in your life, then you have to make a bigger deal of it. My guess is there's probably a lot of other things ahead of that would be more important to you to work on. Okay, fantastic. Go ahead, Gila.
Okay, Chaviva's asking, I really try hard to forgive my husband instantly and really do the inner work. But sometimes my husband will say something that really hurts me. And even if I work to forgive, if I think of it, it hurts. How can I really forgive? Especially when my husband doesn't feel that it should have hurt me too much and I was being too sensitive.
Right. That's the whole thing. Men think we're too sensitive. Guess what, guys? We are. And that makes your life better because we're sensitive to your needs and the kids' needs and the parents' needs and everybody's needs on our own needs. So, okay.
Another one, also hormonal. That's the other one that they use, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay, fine. Hello. So for this thing, I think the question is, how does it affect your day-to-day life? Do you have any sense of that, Gila?
How does it affect her day-to-day life? It seems like it's not happening often, but when it does happen, it just lingers.
And
That's what.
she can't let
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
So there is a very, very clear thing, this Chazal, this is not Leah Weichheimer, that, you almost, when you forgive somebody something, you almost give up the right to bring it up again and to harp on it. And, you might be able to say something incidental, like, when someone says, he says, oh, I'm just going to take for the car for a little while. And like, no, last time you took my car, you were gone for 4 hours and I couldn't get out the house. That would be, and let's say, and you forgave him for that, right? So when you brought it up again, when he says, oh, I'm going to take your car, you would say something like, oh, are we clear that it needs to be back at 12 because I have to get to work, or whatever it is. Just to be as nice about it as possible, that when you get into the real tshuva, real forgiveness, real getting on the other side of it means kind of like you're not allowed to bring it up again and to harp on it. So I'm just guessing that might make a difference for you if, let's say, your husband, your husband said something like, no, we're not getting a dishwasher. It works perfectly fine. Yes, it leaks out the bottom, but we're not getting a new one. That's fine. The leak, you can live with the leak, whatever. So every time you use the dishwasher, you're like, like whatever. You can't forgive him for, I don't know. Do I sometimes come up with the stupidest examples? Yes, I admit. Okay. But anyway, when you're using the dishwasher, you're upset about it, whatever. The key is to be able to remind yourself that once you've let something go, you are not allowed to, you know what I mean? Like it's the wrong thing to do. You're doing the wrong thing, even though your emotions, you can't dictate your own emotions all the time. But if you do have self-mastery over your emotions, you can sometimes say, shut that off. It's very interesting. I just heard the thing where a person was saying that, they ruminate all the time about this and that and the other thing. And they just they visualized putting a rubber stamp on their forehead. This is not productive. This is not productive thinking. This is not productive. And so when they're like going down this dark tunnel, they say that to themselves, and it gives them the koyach to just change what's going on in their own head, very powerful. Very powerful. That maybe work for you, maybe doesn't, but I would imagine a significant number of people that would be a helpful thing to think of when you're like ruminating about something. But for this thing, if it's still bugging you months later, weeks later, whatever, if you put a rubber stamp and say not productive, and I'm not allowed to. I forgave him I verbally told him I forgive him, and I, in my heart, forgave him, and I'm just not allowed to. So I don't know if that's going to work for you. I think that would work in many, many cases. If it's something that was really stung, if it was a really emotional thing, it wasn't just the dishwasher, it was something he said that really upset you, hurt your feelings or something like that, it can still sting. And the only thing we have to know is that, time does heal those kinds of things. And you just have to acknowledge that growth in yourself. Like if a month later it really hurts you, and 2 months later you realize, oh, it stung, but it was less. You should pat yourself on the back, because that's the way you want to grow yourself, is to be somebody who, when you forgive, you actually forgive and you can let go of it. So good luck with it. It's a process. It's not going to, maybe happen overnight, but hopefully that gives you a few tools to work on it in your own head so that it doesn't hurt you going forward. Good questions. Wow. Okay. You guys are deep.
I love these answers, Leah. So helpful and practical. Okay. Shani is asking, how does one let go of resentment if it is a behavior that happens again and again, even though I've spoken to my husband about the behavior and how it hurts me?
Ooh. So the question is, how do you forgive someone?
No, how does she, if it's happening again and again and it's building up resentment, then it just feels like,
what do I do now?
Even if he's saying sorry, it's not.
This might be a case where you need a third party, because, without knowing what the behavior is, if his behavior is that he's, chewing with his mouth open or whatever, that's not your business in a sense. It is, but you know what I'm saying? Like that's a habit he has that doesn't do that much damage. If his habit is something like where he constantly is criticizing you, or he's constantly putting you down, or he's constantly repeatedly, you tell him how much something upsets you, and he keeps talking about how wonderful his sister-in-law is, or something, he has something hurtful, and if you keep talking about it and he keeps doing it, this is definitely something that needs a third party, because he doesn't get it, and if you have a track record in your marriage of handling conflicts well, everybody has rocky road with handling conflict. So, I'm not saying it has to be perfect, but I'm just saying, you get back to harmony after. No, I really want them to go, I want the kids to go to their mother-in-laws. And you're like, no, she's a bad influence on them. She's, does whatever. She's swears, whatever, I don't want them there. And you're having this fight about it. And there's a lot of tension, a lot of conflict in it. And you never get back to harmony about it. You never resolve it. You never whatever, then that would mean you're not so good at handling conflicts in your relationship, or coming out of conflicts, or certain kinds maybe. But if you have big conflicts, and then you say, look, I really think it's this way. And he's like, I think it's that way. Why don't we compromise in the middle? Or, okay, you know what, this time let's just do it your way, or let's do it the half, whatever it is. Analyzing whether you have good ability, if the couple has a good ability for handling conflicts, then you might be able to tackle this particular issue. But if you don't, definitely needs a third party. I wish you hatzlacha with it, and it's definitely worth, if it's repeated, that builds up over time, and the resentments build, and it's not good in the relationship. But you can't get to harmony if you can never get to, about everything, if you can't get to harmony about this particular case. Very good question. Okay.
Okay, Ruchama's asking, I feel so spread thin with my day-to-day duties and responsibilities that I find it so hard to connect to my husband and maintain a peaceful, loving relationship with him, free of resentment. What are some tips for pushing through the difficulties of the daily grind to maintain a strong relationship?
That's gewaldic. So first of all, we're all frenzied. We're like the most frenzied generation since time began, a million things. We never do one thing at once anymore. It's always like, multitasking. We're giving them a bath and ordering groceries. It's just crazy. So in terms of making time, you're making time for this conflict, but you're also making time for, being married to this man. You know what I'm saying? I don't know how you divvy up your life and divvy up your time, but one thing that I've found across the board with all women is they pour time into their children, and then whatever's left over, they give to their husband. And it's really backwards, because we have many, many Torah sources that talk about that we spend eternity with our husband. There's like 0 sources that say we spend eternity with our children. I mean, I haven't found one. If you found one, send it to me, info@ladiestalkshow.com. But we're spending eternity with our husband, and where are we pouring our efforts and our time? We're pouring it into our children and raising them. Well, Leah, be fruitful and multiply. This is our main avoda. No, our main avoda is as an Ezer Kenegdo, to take care of our husband, and he gets the dregs left after everything else. So I had a very choshev Rebbitzin who used to, when her husband came home from dinner, at the end of his workday, right? Now, remember, she had many, many children, I think upwards of 8 or 9 children, okay? That's the craziest time of the day, right? The witching hour. When her husband walked in, let's say it's 6 o'clock, the kids are a cranky mess. They've just eaten their dinner. I want dessert. The house is flying. People are taking baths. People are doing homework. It's crazy. Her husband walked in the door. Everybody had to go to their room, and she spent 20 minutes sitting with him in the living room. This is like their whole childhood. The kids' whole childhood. They hear their father's car pull up in the driveway, and everybody runs to their bedroom, and their mother greets them, and they sit in the living room for 20 minutes. Like, how she managed that, I don't know. Like, I don't know how that ended up happening. I know it was a fact. Let me tell you, her children grew up like gewaldic, like they're just the yummiest. Like, it's like, hi, Leah, whatever. Like, so I'm just telling you, it is possible. the problem is that kids scream and I want this, and they scream for attention, and the husband doesn't. He walks in. If you're busy doing a million things with the kids, he just kind of, oh, okay, and he'll go do whatever else. So he's not screeching for your attention like the children are. So we think, oh, well, they're screeching, I need to take care of them. You can train your children. In fact, it's to their benefit for them to understand daddy comes first. Tati, Abba comes first. He comes first. And so that is what the mentality, if you can shift your mentality to think that way, slowly but surely, your life will start to, we have our goals and our visions and our dreams, and then we've got reality, right? But slowly, if you have your goals and your visions and your dreams of taking care of your husband, it's like your kid comes to you and says, daddy's coming home now. Go to your room, solve it with your sister yourself. I'm getting my makeup on because daddy's coming home, or whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? They learn that your husband is the priority and the number one in your life. And kids thrive on that. Hashem thrives on that because it's what he wants more than anything in the world. That's what he created you for, is to be an Ezer connected to your husband. That's our whole essence. And when you're not squandering it on raising kids, but you're so focused on the kids that you're ignoring your husband, it's not good. So I'm giving you a little bit of chastise for how you prioritize your time. I'm not negating the fact of how frenzied you are, how frenzied we all are. I get it. But I'm just saying, if you had in your gut, you are like a determined, motivated person to make sure you had harmony with your husband, even if it was the cost to the children, cost to the fact, okay, we aren't having guests this Shabbos. I'm sorry. You know what? This month, this year, we're not having guests. Why? So I have the koiches to be able to take care of my husband the way I want, the way I envision. I want to fulfill my shlemus, my perfection in this world. And if that's what I have to do, I'm going to drop everything else off my plate and take only care of my husband. And guess what? I think it's Rav Elchanan Wasserman said that 90%, am I getting the quote right? Forgive me if I'm not, but something like 90% of raising children is your shalom bayis. So if you focus on your shalom bayis, a lot of the things that you think are so urgent and crucial, okay, your kid will go without the sneakers that he wanted, or this one had a science fair and you took care of your husband instead, and they failed to find size. I don't know. I'm making up things, but I'm just saying, once a person gets their priorities, there's a different shift in how you approach life and how you approach your relationship with your husband. I wish you bracha and hatzlacha in it, and that you should have koiches to be able to make those micro changes in your life each and every day until you get to a place where he not only is the most important thing in your life, but that your actions show it. Okay. Thank you very much. Okay.
Okay.
Do you have any time for
one more question?
Okay,
we have time for.
Okay. Yep.
And it's a good one. So Pearl is asking, can you give us one line we can tell ourselves in the moment that we feel resentment starting to bubble up?
Oh, beautiful. I love this question.
Nice way to end the.
Yeah. So let me just think for a sec. I mean, I love the stamp of that this is not productive, because it's kind of like, oh yeah, that's true, and I don't know if you ever saw these stamps where it says confidential, and it you stamp the stamper and then you do this. I don't know if they have these, and then it says, you put that on an envelope or something. Do you guys know what an envelope is? It's this thing you put a letter. Do you know what a letter, and then you put a postage stamp? Okay, never mind. Anyway, okay, so the stamp that says, confidential, you stamp it on. It's just imagine a big stamp going bonk on your head like that says bonk, that says this is not productive. So maybe that, but also there's something deeper, which is that do I want to hold my resentment close to me, or do I want my husband close to me? You know what I mean? Like you're either, the resentment is here and it's between you and your husband, or your husband is closer and that's over here. Maybe that in a spiritual level, you'll be able to just let go. Okay. All right. You guys are great. Okay. Let me give you your homework for the week. The homework this week is one time when you're feeling the bubbling resentment bumble up and you're like an old thing that you didn't forgive or an old grudge or something that happens now, whatever, that you have the kashas and the strength that this week, one time you let it go. And however you need to do that. And it might be that you need to do it by stamping your head or realizing you want to bring your husband closer, or it might be you need to say something. It might be that you say, oh, I was kind of upset because I told you not to do this, but just remember, please, for next time, something in the sweetest, softest way you possibly can. One time this week. Okay, it is Leah Richheimer for the Ladies Talk Show. We'll see you next week.